Welcome to our review on exchange surfaces. First thing we need to consider then is why do we really care about these exchange surfaces? Now what we actually find is that cells use diffusion to either obtain or remove substances. So oxygen will move into the cells by diffusion and carbon dioxide and urea move out of the cells by diffusion. And what we find is that there's a key thing that's going to determine how easy it is for the organism to exchange those substances with their environment. And that is the surface area to volume ratio. What we find is that the ratio of the surface area to the volume decreases as objects get larger. And you need to be able to calculate the surface area to volume ratios of objects. So, bit of a maths lesson coming in now, so apologies if you think that you are amazing at maths and don't need this. You can just skip a little bit further on in the video. So if we start off with our little shape here, we've got a 4x3x2 shape. So to calculate the volume, then what we need to do is length times width times height. So we do 4 times 3 times 2 gives us a volume of 24 centimeters cubed. To calculate the surface area, then we're going to use our area formula, which is length times width, but we need to calculate the area of every single surface there and add them together. So if we have a look at the front face there, we've got a 4x2, so that gives us 8 centimeters squared. On the side, we've got 3x2, so that's 6 centimeters squared. And then the top and the bottom would be a 4x3, so a 12 centimeters squared. Each of those faces, we've got two, okay? So we've got the front and the back, we've got the left and the right sides, and the top and the bottom. So what we're actually going to do is 8 times 2 plus 6 times 2 plus 12 times 2, because we're going to multiply each of the areas that we found by 2 to give us the two faces it represents, and then add them all together to give the total surface area of our object, which is 52 centimeters squared. What we've got here is a 6x5x4 object, so the volume in this case is 6 times 5 times 4, which is 120 centimeters cubed, and the surface area, you can see we've got a 6x4 face, a 5x4 face, and a 6x5 face, which gives us a total of 148 centimeters squared as the surface area. If we just put that information into a simple table, then you can see we've got our surface areas and our volumes. And then to work out the surface area to volume ratio, all we need to do is divide by the volume for each side. So we start off with 52 to 24, divide the 52 by 24 and the 24 by 24, and we end up with a surface area to volume ratio of 2.17 to 1. Do the same thing with our other object, so we've got 148 to 120, divide that both by 120, and we end up with 1.23 to 1. So we can see that as the object has got bigger on the right there, then the surface area to volume ratio has got smaller. So it's only 1.23 to 1 rather than 2.17 to 1. When we come to consider living organisms then, if we think about prokaryotes first of all, then the surface area to volume ratio of prokaryotic cells is actually high enough to allow all the substances that they require to enter at a fast enough rate by diffusion alone. So they don't need anything else to let them get the substances they need to exist. When we come on to the multicellular organisms, like us, then what we find is we've got a much smaller surface area to volume ratio. So diffusion wouldn't actually get us everything we need in a fast enough time. So in order to counteract that problem, we actually have developed these things called exchange surfaces to meet our needs. When we come to think about how these exchange surfaces are actually going to help solve this problem, then they've got 3 key adaptations that you should remember. The first one is that they've got a thin membrane, and that reduces the distance that substances have to diffuse across. So we refer to that as having a short diffusion pathway. So thin membrane means a short diffusion pathway. The second one is that they've got lots of blood vessels, because that allows a rapid exchange between the blood and the cells. And it means that we're going to maintain a steep concentration gradient. Third and final one is that any of our gas exchange surfaces are actually ventilated. And again, the idea behind that is to maintain a steep concentration gradient. Hopefully at the end of this video we know how to calculate surface areas and volumes and the surface area to volume ratio. We can explain the importance of this and how surface area to volume ratio changes as organisms get larger. You should also be able to recall the 3 adaptations that our exchange surfaces have.